So if you started fresh in Africa with, say, $50 to $250,000, I'm going to tell you the best cities for African Americans to build wealth in Africa. And some of them may surprise you. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Ashley. I help smart money investors diversify their investments, real estate, financial, and alternative investments throughout East and Southern Africa, the way smart money does. A due diligence process that most investors don't know even exists. If this type of information sounds valuable to you, be sure to follow along for more. So I've done a previous video on this, and this was when I was living in Africa for, let's say, I think it was about 2 to 3 years, or maybe it was even 4. I published it last year. And so having celebrated, or almost on my way to celebrating 5 years here in the continent, this video is comprised of a bit more information that's going to help you, because it definitely would have helped me if I would have had it when I made my journey. So if you started fresh with $50,000 to $250,000, which city would help you grow your money while continuing to build a better quality of life, keeping it simple and safe for your financial trajectory, and ultimately the legacy you're looking to build? When I moved to Africa, I wasn't really thinking legacy. I just knew that there was more for me, and I needed to experience it as well as go through the troubles and the challenges that I went through to ultimately identify some of the biggest challenges that exist to building the business that we now have today, where we've helped over 100 entrepreneurs and legacy-driven families relocate from the US, the UK, Canada, and the Caribbean to different countries across East, Southern, and Western Africa. So in this video, I'm going to give you a couple of different cities and some playbooks that will help you with visa ideas, long-term residency, rental opportunities, business examples, and basically something that I've not talked about before, but that I picked up in my recent collaboration with a team around investment citizenship, right? I'm getting so excited. My words are mixing. So why now? So several African countries are growing their economies, right? Recent public estimates say Rwanda is growing the fastest. Tanzania and Kenya are growing steadily, and South Africa is growing at a slower pace, but there are big and deep markets here in South Africa as, you know, comparably the most developed country on the continent. And so West Africa is full of opportunities, but there are some challenges in their economy, in their political infrastructure, as well as financial fluctuations, currency fluctuations. And so timing and homework really matter when looking at West African markets, but we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So how did I pick these cities? I want to tell you my rubric. It was around how you can earn steady rental income or start a small business without a huge risk. How can you get the right papers to live and work there within a suitable time frame, and the cost of living compared to comparable major US cities, as well as access to trusted attorneys, property managers, and accountants, which a lot of people struggle with identifying, which is why we offer this to our private clients within the Africa Wealth Strategy system, but we'll talk more about that a little bit later. So the first city for African Americans to preserve and grow their wealth on this list is none other than Nairobi, Kenya. There are big jobs and tech hubs in East Africa. Many local and global companies are based there. If you've heard anything about the UN and the movement of the UN leaving New York, the most expensive city in the world, to create its new global headquarters in Nairobi, this is bringing economic development to the city. So if you're able to create or already have a skill set that can service this new global hub, whether that's in, event planning, property management, relocation services, even things like wedding planning. Oh, that's event planning, right? How can you support this now global migration of one of the biggest nonprofit organizations in the world. Tons of property developments are happening, schools. I mean, if you can create or expand your skill set to Nairobi, Kenya within the next year, you have a huge opportunity at the upside of what Nairobi, Kenya is looking like. And not to mention it being a huge tech hub for the world, and innovation is actively happening in Nairobi, Kenya. So rentals, apartments, house rentals are going to see a huge increase and are already seeing steady income growth in, of course, the right neighborhood. So if you are targeting a higher income clientele, which is what I always recommend to my clients when we are helping them to diversify their real estate investments, I always say go high, right? Go high because you can attract that. That's your wheelhouse. You're coming from a middle class market, some upper middle class. You can take that, leverage that, and go big, right? Not saying that there isn't a need in, affordable housing and lower income housing and student housing. There are absolutely needs. But in order to take a more, a better approach to how to improve and grow your wealth, you want to be looking at higher income markets, right? A value-driven business over a volume-driven business. And international investors, international workers, international talent are looking for those type of rentals, that type of service, so you can cater to them and benefit off of catering to them. Whether you're an African-American, an international investor, or, a Kenyan citizen, right? Target the higher income earners for a faster opportunity to grow your wealth and preserve it long term. All right. So who fits that market? Well, builders who want a big city lifestyle with many options and partners to choose from, right? So the last time I was in Nairobi, I loved it. I had a great time. I actually, was like, ooh, I could definitely do this. It reminded me a lot of like San Francisco with a mix of New York, because of the skyscrapers, because of the music, because of the culture, the vibes, the energy, the international cuisines, the infrastructure. Nairobi really has it all, but you absolutely want to make sure that you're vetting your partners to work with, and you're doing that carefully with a due diligence process. Oh, the kids are here. Let me pause. Okay, we're back. As you all may know, or if you're new here, my name is Ashley, and on this channel, I share my experience as well of living, moving, and doing business here on the continent of Africa. I moved 5 years ago from Atlanta, Georgia, to my second best country for African Americans, which is Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, with my 2 daughters in tow. At the time, they were 2 and 9. They are now 7 and 14. And so you may see them running around. They just got home from the library with our homeschool teacher. And so you may see them in the background because it's important that I get this content out to you guys. So as I mentioned, the second country and city that's best for African Americans to not only build, but to build and preserve their wealth in Africa is Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. So why does Dar es Salaam work? Well, it's a stable, politically and economically stable country. Okay, stable rules and a strong city that serves the region. Dar es Salaam is the fastest growing city in East Africa, and the positioning of Tanzania is very strategic to the continent of Africa with direct trade routes to Asia. Right? India, Asia, there's a lot of trade happening. The ports in Tanzania, now they're building a second one, provide goods to the other cities and countries surrounding Tanzania for trade, right? So it's a strategic location. It serves the East African region, and ultimately the stability of that country is paramount. When I was living in Tanzania, it was beautiful, and I still spent a lot of time there. But for me, the challenge was capital. right? I was building a business slowly, but I didn't have the level of capital, nor did I have the relationships at the time to build in Tanzania at the pace that I knew I needed to build in order to sustain myself long term on the continent of Africa. And as a solo mom with 2 children, I had a time clock, right? But when you look at the long-term growth and the long-term opportunities in Tanzania, which is why I'm still doing business in Tanzania, the long-term rentals can really bring in a good amount of income, a solid income, especially again for those middle class to higher income earners. Dar es Salaam is coastal, it's diverse, you have a developing infrastructure that is becoming world class, as well as a global and international airport that essentially rivals many airports in the West. So short-term rentals near the beach or the city center can really do well with strong operations. I've seen really nice luxury rentals in Dar es Salaam and surrounding areas like Masaki and Mbezi Beach go for as much as $250 to $350 a night. So if you've got strong operational teams, you can do really, really well in Dar es Salaam. And who fits this? Well, these are buyers who like steady tourism and trade demand and who are willing to learn the local market, right? So this is not for people that are looking for Western amenities. There is a strong presence of Kiswahili, which is the official language. And yes, some people and many people do speak English, but adopting to the culture, adapting to the language and the ways of doing business are critical when doing business long-term in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. But for families, it is fantastic. If you are coming in with a good amount of capital to invest and do business in the appropriate sectors, which is what we teach people inside of our Africa Wealth Strategy system, we're gonna tell you the industries that are mostly, that are doing the best, where you're not only gonna receive strong returns on your investment, but you're going to receive government and community backing and support. So knowing those industries like agriculture, right, like education, development are huge, but there are plenty of other industries that you can go in with less capital if you've got the proper skill set. Okay, so if you are in that industry or the adjacent industries, you can do really, really well in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. I hope you're finding value in this and I hope it's helpful. So the next city that is great for African Americans looking to build and preserve their wealth in Africa is my favorite city. All of these are my favorite, by the way. Johannesburg, South Africa. Why does Johannesburg work? Well, Johannesburg, South Africa is the largest rental market on the continent. I will repeat that. It is the largest rental market on the continent of Africa. So you've got many tenants, many neighborhoods, and more financing options than most places. So for many people that are coming to African countries, they're looking for things like mortgage options, right? Financing. Many countries don't have access to that. You're okay, baby. Many countries don't have that, but South Africa absolutely provides that. So your ability to invest in a country like South Africa goes further because as a foreigner, you absolutely can qualify for rental options. For financing options. Most international investors will qualify for up to 50% financing. And that's huge. And so if you've got $300K to invest, you can essentially take that and leverage it into, instead of one property paying cash, you can leverage that into multiple properties, right? For one of our clients that we're currently working with, we saved her over $350,000 in investing in a market which we love, which is great, but for long-term rental, it requires a level of management that just isn't in that market yet. A huge opportunity, but not a risk that our client was looking to take. So she had already invested in South Africa, acquiring 2 rentals. And so instead of her taking that over 350,000 to invest in a market that's still lacking some of the infrastructure she needs to build her wealth, she's bringing that capital to South Africa where she could leverage into multiple investments, multiple rental opportunities to stretch out her capital and get more rental income in the largest rental market in Africa, right? So gross rental income can be attractive in the right areas, right? Again, targeting the middle class, as Africa is seeing a rise in the middle class, where most Western cities are seeing a compression, like a decrease, right, of the middle class. But that's not happening across the African continent. So especially for small apartments, right, near transport options like the How train or Uber, right? Or even public transit. So there are specific locations that we recommend our investors invest in, just based on those things for long-term rentals, all right? And so there are business and remote work visa paths for South Africa. They're not the easiest to get, but again, with folks that work with us inside the Africa Wealth Strategy, we make sure that their investments are legally protected with immigration, estate, and tax efficiencies that most investors don't know exist. So if you want an opportunity to work with us, hit the link in the description and apply to see if it would be a fit. And I don't know if I can help you, but if I can, we would love to support you on the journey. The next city that is best for African Americans to build and retain their wealth in Africa is the beautiful, the majestic Cape Town, South Africa, which is where I currently live with my family. And I love Cape Town. The reason why it's the best fit for me and for many other African Americans that are actively building wealth here is because of the strong quality of life. Listen, your health is your wealth. And for me, being around nature, getting to see it daily, like looking out of my window and seeing the ocean, going on my back terrace and seeing Lion Head Mountain, being able to take a car 15 minutes away to hike one of the wonders of the world on Table Mountain with my children. Connecting and being in nature every day just revives my health in a way that I can't explain. If you know, you know. And so the mountain, the ocean lifestyle, the market for professionals in Cape Town is amazing. I get to meet, and again, your network is also your net worth. So I have met international professionals from all over the world doing business in architecture, real estate, development, education, finance, technology, creative industry, medical tech, mining, like all of the things, automotive, right? All of the things, creative design, art, textile. I mean, the amount of creativity, innovation, and like-minded folks that live here in Cape Town is just completely unmatched. And so well-located apartments and townhouses can earn great income with midterm to short-term rentals. So unfortunately, there is a rental quote unquote difficulty, and I'd say crisis, because the regulation around how much people can charge for their rentals isn't in place, which is leading to a really high demand for affordable housing. However, in the short term, I recommend to our investors to invest in tourism-driven real estate, because that's where you're going to see the most income opportunity. But this also fuels the service-based business industry around property management, which is still a really huge need here in South Africa. So there are several neighborhoods that are being developed, that are growing, but then there are those that are affluent, that are already attracting a high level clientele. And you can forget about it. In the months of November, December, and January, you can see rental incomes increase by 2 to 3x. Now, call this whatever you'd like. I'm not here to dispel what the challenges are, because there are challenges associated with this. But if you're looking to build and preserve your wealth, I always recommend coming into a market where you can hit the ground running and you can begin to see returns in the short term, which is going to help create the confidence you need to last on the continent, the long term. Okay, so prices in popular areas can be high. This is something to absolutely look through. And you want to make sure that you're picking locations, buildings with updated infrastructure, with water, electricity, power solutions, parking, and all of those things. All right. So the next but not least city, which I have yet to be to, but I hope that we'll be working with the government of Rwanda very soon, where African Americans can absolutely build wealth, where I know a few people that are developing world-class 5-star property developments, is Kigali, Rwanda. So why does Kigali, Rwanda work? Well, it's clean. It's the cleanest city in Africa, very safe, and extremely efficient through the lens of doing business and hosting massive corporate events. So easy entry for visitors and tourists from anywhere in the world, from most countries in the world, right? Long-term rentals for professionals. Again, the middle to upper class earners can bring in steady income. Short-term rentals will work near the airport and business districts, as well as the event spaces, right? And so who fits in Rwanda? This is a city for wealth builders. I wouldn't say you're gonna get all of the Western, amenities that you might be looking for, but this is for folks that are looking to build their wealth. They value order, they value clarity and rules, and maybe they're smaller, right? Maybe you have a smaller portfolio, but you're looking to manage your capital intentionally, right? I have heard there are some challenges with Kigali, Rwanda, as far as lifestyle, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're talking about the best places to build your wealth. And depending on what your needs are going to depend on which countries are going to fit you better. And to take and compare these cities and countries, as I've been speaking to you, you can also head over to the Africa Relocation Roadmap, which is the most powerful tool backed by AI to help you uncover the best countries to live in Africa based on your budget and the needs for your family. All right, so take a look at that in the link as well. So let's talk about the cost of living reality. Some of these cities are less expensive than major US cities. Some are not. I'd say Cape Town is very comparable to the rent that I'm seeing in some major cities in the US, but prices can change based on the neighborhood that you live in. Your rents can be as high or as low as you want it. But for wealth builders, you may desire, like me, to be in an environment that reflects the things that you value. Nature, a network opportunity, accessibility to great schools, accessibility to fine dining, accessibility to great places to work out and to meet people. Those things are important to me. They may not be important to you, but for me, they're motivators around how I can actively build and retain my wealth, not only in the long term, but in the short term as well. So always run a budget check, right? That includes your rent, your utilities, transport, schools, healthcare, internet, et cetera, depending on your lifestyle. You can do that on the Africa Relocation Roadmap, which is the free tool that I mentioned earlier. So that link is in the description as well. But this is one of the things that I haven't really talked about on this channel, as far as what does it mean to secure your position in a city or in a country and on the continent of Africa. I always say this and I stand by this. You don't necessarily need citizenship in a country to live well and to have a great quality of life or even to build wealth. But you may want to leverage your current wealth for a security that gives you access to citizenship and a second passport. And so these next cities are the best for African Americans to build wealth because your investment into these cities and countries essentially is going to give you citizenship automatically. So some countries are discussed online for fast routes to citizenship through investment. But please note that these changes happen regularly. So these, programs can change, pause, or be misrepresented by marketers. This is not a paid post. This is for people that have been asking me over and over in the comments, where should I go? And so always confirm with the governmental website, right? Or a licensed immigration attorney, which is what I share with all of my clients. That immigration protection is key. Before you send any money, don't ever send anyone money, ever. Please don't do it. Don't do it. Confirm with government sites and licensed attorneys before making a decision. So these are the capitals to know if you research these topics, right? The best cities and countries for African Americans to build wealth in Africa through citizenship by investment. So Freetown, Sierra Leone, and Sao Tome and Principe. Sao Tome is the capital city, the best city, I'd say, if you want to build wealth in Africa with and through citizenship by investment. And then last but not least, Botswana, which the capital city is Gaborone. This has not been announced officially. Well, it has been officially announced, but it has not been enacted. And they're saying it will likely be enacted in 2026. So for most people, a residency permit or work permit through investment or local job is a more realistic path. But if you've got a level of capital that you want to leverage to secure long-term citizenship and another passport, this could be a great option for you. So again, if you feel like you want to learn more, definitely do your own research. And if you want to take it a step further, apply for a call to work with us inside the Africa Wealth Strategy to see if this is something that would work best for you and your family. When I started out on my journey, I moved to the best place that was the best for me at the time, which was Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. I needed to be connected to nature. I needed to be in a slower pace of life, and I needed to do a lot of healing coming from the chaotic conflict that was existing and continues to persist in my home country of America. I wanted to go to a place where I felt safe and where I knew my children would be revered and valued and not seen as challenges or problems. And so Tanzania was that for me for the first 2.5 years in my Africa journey. And it still continues to be as I continue to do business in Tanzania. But at one point, I knew that I needed to be in an environment where I could leverage my skill set while also being realistic about the things that I needed for my life and for the lifestyle that I didn't want to sacrifice anymore. I always wanted to live on the ocean. Cape Town was my dream city. I had it perched on a vision board, the beautiful mountains and the mirroring ocean of Camps Bay was on my vision board 11 years ago. And through the actions that I took, the risks that I took, and the faith that I had, I was able to make it to Cape Town 11 years later and essentially invested in businesses here and have seen my income double already after being here for about 6 months. And so everything you need is on the other side of fear, but you absolutely want to, one, do your research, and two, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to make a mistake or say, okay, I thought this was the right place for me, but it's not the right place for me. And so over my 5-year journey in Africa, I've lived in 3 different cities. 3 of those cities I'm also recommending to you because I've found value in those cities and I'm confident that you'll be able to find it too. And so let me share a few mistakes that a lot of people make that I want you to avoid that I know are going to save you thousands of dollars and potentially years of your time, or even worse, having to head back to the country that you worked so hard to depart from. Do not ever send money to strangers online. I am a stranger. I am a stranger, and your favorite YouTubers are strangers too. Now, if you decide to invest in a product or a program or an event where you are going to see immediate value from, absolutely do that. But when it comes to leveraging your life savings, your entire retirement, or money that you can't afford to lose, do not do it. Next thing, don't assume that you have to be debt-free in this process, right? Leverage your understanding of capital. And I'm speaking to the folks that might have made a lot of money, have a good quality of life, right? But you're also probably feeling a bit over-leveraged. Don't believe that you have to be debt-free in order to build wealth in another environment. Debt, good debt, debt information, debt education is a part of the game. It's a great way to build wealth. And regardless of where you are in your wealth journey, instead of focusing on debt, focus on your relationship to money and why you are so maybe insecure around the fact that you have said debt. Because the reality is you can get out of an environment where your capital is depreciating in value, take it to an environment where your capital is stronger and pay off your debt a bit faster. Do not skip tax and money transfer rules. You meet a person, you're here, you're visiting, you see a property, you see some land. Instead of going through the proper channels, you decide to send it to a friend of a friend to purchase it for you. Don't do that. Don't do that. In the event that you want to repatriate your funds to another country, you've now possibly violated the international financial laws. Okay? I send my money every month through a verifiable app, and I'm always getting flagged, right? Not always, but like every few months they flag me for a couple $1,000s. And so you're sending 20, 30, 50, 100, 200,000, 300,000, $1 million improperly because you think you've got a steal. Oh, don't worry. You're gonna have some challenges along the way. Do not do that. Do not run short-term rentals without the approval and the proper licensing. You guys saw the video that I shared maybe a couple months earlier where I almost got scammed. Well, it wasn't by a South African. It was actually by a German who was investing in property here, avoiding taxes, and didn't even have the proper income setup or the proper licensing to rent to me. So when I decided that I, needed to be out of that situation, I got up out of that situation because it was very clear that that investor was violating the laws of South Africa. Don't do that. Don't do it. Avoid this mistake at all costs. Work with a team that is going to help you with legal support, immigration support, tax and estate efficiency so you avoid these challenges in the long run. And then, while South Africa has not been experiencing load shedding or, I can't speak for Johannesburg. I just say Cape Town hasn't been experiencing load shedding or any water issues. You absolutely want to make sure you've got backup power and water options available if you are looking to rent long-term and rent out your property long-term. This is just going to attract a person that's willing to pay for that level of convenience. And again, the middle class, high income earners are definitely going to do that. So let's get started. If you want to take this video, the best thing you can do is take the information I'm sharing with you and put it into action. And so step one, pick one city and one type of property to focus on. Maybe start at 3 and narrow it down to 1. But pick one city and one type of property or investment to focus on. And if you need support with that, of course, you can apply to work with us inside the Africa Wealth Strategy System. And if it's a fit, we'll see if we can help you on that journey. The second thing, hire a licensed lawyer or a third party property manager to check each deal. This is what we do within our Africa Wealth Strategy system with our vetted attorney partners, right? That I've worked with, that have worked with me on deals, that have worked with other clients on deals. And after working with them, I have vetted them to share them with people that come to work with me inside the Africa Wealth Strategy. And the third thing, spend 2 to 4 weeks. I always say 2 is the bare minimum, 4 is great, but spend 2 to 4 weeks on the ground to test real rentals, utilities, and the culture, the local culture. Don't just be a taker. Don't be an investor that comes to take and go, right? Invest your time. If you're going to invest your capital, invest the resource that is the most valuable, which is your time, to get to know the people, get to know the culture, get to know the environment, and how you can continue to contribute to the economy that is going to give you dividends in return. All right. So my call to action to you is to take action on this information, right? And information is nothing without action. And I know many people are feeling very uncomfortable in the environments that they're in. They believe that the world is collapsing and everything is going to crap. Let me tell you something. I don't experience any of that living in Cape Town, South Africa. And I know I could be living in a bubble, but what I see are cranes in the sky. What I see are job listings inside our Africa relocation roadmap. What I see are incomes increasing. What I see are people's wealth growing, rental yields doubling, tourism numbers doubling, right? Business opportunities and foreign direct investment growing. That's what I see on my side of the internet. And so if you're interested in learning more about wealth building opportunities, be sure to click the link to apply to work with us within the Africa Wealth Strategy system. And if it's a fit, we'll have a one-on-one strategy call. So if you found value in this content, like the video, share it with someone else who would also find value with it, and be sure to watch for more. Thanks for watching. Until the next time, I'll see you soon.